Hello, welcome to another edition of Serving the Valley. I'm Roy Justice. This is a Cedar Falls TV production that gets you up close and personal to what makes this part of Iowa a nice place to call home. And some of those people that help make it that way is where we're going in just a moment. Got to thinking in my drive in here to produce this program, this particular topic we're going to talk about has been top of the mind since the first quarter of 2020. And that topic is science. Think about it. You know where I'm going with that, but we're not really going to go there with that. We're going to talk about specifically the Iowa Academy of Science. The what? The Iowa Academy of Science. Right here. In fact, not too far from where we are, not too far from where you are. It started back in 1875. Craig Johnson was not the executive director at that time. However, Craig Johnson has joined us right here on the set today, and he is the current executive director of that organization. Craig, how did that get started?
Well, as you mentioned, it's way back in 1875, which is a far cry from today. And the purpose of the academy was to foster communication in the sciences. So if you can imagine, people around the state, scientists around the state, mainly in academic institutions, needed ways to communicate. And one way is to do it in person, obviously. And so 13 Iowa scientists went to the University of Iowa in Iowa City. Mm-hmm. And I understand by buckboard or horseback or whatever means necessary to get there, no interstate highways, and formed the organization as a way to foster communication among the sciences. So it had its beginnings, really. Actually, there's a national organization called the American Association for the Advancement of Science, which was formed in 1848. And the Iowa Academy of Science was patterned after that organization. Okay. So by that I mean it has scientific sections. Mm-hmm. So we have sections that represent many of the major sciences. There's 12 sections. And so they formed the organization roughly around that idea, which is how the national organization formed. And the national organization is still very active, obviously. And the Academy still functions very similar to how the national organization does, but on a state level.
Excellent. Thank you for that background. Lynn Countryman has joined us as well. Lynn is a professor of science education here at the University of Northern Iowa. And Lynn, thanks for being with us.
Certainly, Roy.
How long have you been up at UNI?
I've been there since 1990.
Okay, so education was your pursuit from being a little girl wanting to get involved in science?
Actually, I was successful in high school in science, and so I decided, actually I was going to be an engineer, and I went to Iowa State.
Mm-hmm. That's allowed.
Yes, I know. I ended up, though, in science education and have taught science since 1980. So.
Wow. A few students' grades.
Yes. High school science for a long time, and then now the university. I teach elementary teachers how to teach science in their classrooms.
Okay. Craig, your interest in science, we know from your former life that
right.
What you did, but how did you get involved in the science of the weather?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it goes back to when I can remember being like 5 and 6 years old, being interested in the weather. And so, I mean, I could go out in the yard and look up at clouds, and it's like, well, why are those up there, and why are they shaped the way they are? Mm-hmm. And why do we have storms, and why do we have nice days? So I probably read every single book available in the Fort Dodge Public Library on meteorology, including some books that had funny squiggly marks and things in them, mathematics, calculus. Mm-hmm. And so I read through everything I possibly could. And, you know, I was lucky, my parents had no problem with me building weather instruments. So I made wind vane, anemometer. I ordered some equipment from a science company in Chicago that had different types of equipment so I could automate it. So my wind sensor would read inside the house with lights on a little block of wood. So as the wind vane turned, the lights lit up inside the house. I had an anemometer that had a little wire sticking off the bottom, so every time it spun around once it made contact and blinked the light. So I could count blinking lights and try and estimate the wind speed.
Wow.
And I hand drew weather maps.
Yes.
There was on WITV in Ames,
Yes.
there was a meteorologist on the air who presented weather. So every night I would copy all those weather maps. So I mean, that's really where it came from. It was a general interest in probably most things science. So I was curious about a lot of things. And that's really where it started. And one thing left to another, and I decided to do it professionally.
So your education was where?
I
Fort
went
Dodge and then...
Yeah, at Fort Dodge High School. I went to
Right.
Iowa Central for 2 years. Then I went out to the University of Utah out in Salt Lake City because it had a really good meteorology program, still does. And that program was actually training Navy and Air Force personnel in meteorology and then civilians as well. So we had about 45 members in our graduating class, and about 7 were civilian, the rest were military. So that's where I ended up because of the program, and I mean, I could go on about that, but I won't. But it was just a great experience, a really good experience, and so I enjoyed that, and it just fit exactly what I was interested in.
Well, after you retired from the TV there, you got involved in the Iowa Academy of Science.
I did, yeah. That would have been back in 2004.
Okay.
So the summer of 2004 is when I got involved with the academy.
Excellent. Thank you both for that background. You've got the jobs. Thank you for being with us. You're not applying for the jobs, but you've got them. And part of that is to get through this for the next several minutes. Let's get to the mission of the Iowa Academy of Science. I think we have a graphic someplace on that. It spells it out with a few words, but tell me what that is.
Yeah, it promotes science, research, science education, the public understanding of science, and it recognizes excellence in those endeavors. So that mission allows the Academy to do a lot of things. And so promoting science research, we have a journal that scientists can publish in. It's a peer-reviewed journal, so that's one way we do it.
We also have citizen scientists
We do.
that publish in that.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be someone that has been trained all their life or has a PhD in science, because we have some citizen scientists in the state of Iowa that are doing amazing things with entomology, with plants.
Right. We're actually a very friendly organization. Even in our membership, we have a membership category for members of the general public who would, if they would like to be involved with the Academy, they can. So it's not all for professionals. In fact, we have a junior academy, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, but so we have a junior academy for middle and high school students. So there's a wide, and even at the college level, undergraduate and graduate students can belong to the academy and participate in various things and volunteer opportunities as well. So there's as Lynn was saying, that it's not simply a professional organization, and there's actually opportunities to publish not peer-reviewed articles, but just general interest articles in that journal. So we would accept articles from just about anyone who would like to maybe relate their expertise on things in science or some of their interest in science. Those opportunities are there.
Helping people understand science. There are a lot of categories for membership in the Academy. There are also a lot of, on my drive in here, I was trying to think quickly, categories of science, the weather, forestry, agricultural science, we're certainly aware of that here in this state, natural science, forestry, boy are we aware of political science, but let's not go there, environmental science, mathematicals, the space program, forensic science, you see that all over TV with the entertainment issues and so forth. Your membership categories, I noted there were educators, there was corporate members, there were institutions that are members, and then the all-important science of the students getting interested in science. there's an annual event that under normal conditions you'd be having on an annual basis. Again, the situation is fluid as we're presenting and producing this, but for an update on almost anything we're talking about, check the website, and there is a website.
Yes. So it is scienceinoiowa.org.
All one word.
All one word, scienceinoiowa.org.
Okay.
Yes. And that takes you to pretty much every single thing we do, if you want to spend some time on that website.
Okay, I
Which
said
we'd love to have people do, actually.
in a normal year, there would be an annual event. Actually, you have meetings, you have presentations, you have a contest. You have people who can apply for, not scholarships, but grants.
Correct, yeah. Even scholarships, too.
Oh,
In
scholarships too,
ornithology,
okay.
we have a scholarship program.
So let's tick off some of those before we run out of time. You're having an annual meeting.
Right.
Bring all your membership together in the various categories,
That
or
is
who
correct.
attends that?
Yeah, that, well, the typical attendance, and again, this is open to anyone who would like to be involved. In fact, we have 3 general sessions that are open to the public free of charge to that meeting. So, and the meeting moves around the state.
Okay.
So we are holding it at UNI every other year, but then in the other off years from UNI, then we hold the meeting in other parts of the state. So we move it around. So general public can actually come to some general sessions, and they're exactly what they say. They're more on more general, broader topics of the time, and can attend those for free. But overall, we have science professionals, we have science students, graduate, undergraduate students, and we have junior academy students, middle and high school students.
Okay.
And so that's who in general attends the meeting. We bring in speakers. We'll have national speakers or regional speakers. We have state speakers on different topics, just a variety of topics at that meeting.
Okay, so somebody out there right now, either the student themselves or a grandparent or a parent, and they said, Mary Sue or Johnny seems to be interested in something like that. Where would I call? Who would I contact? Where do I get more information about what we're talking about?
Well, you would contact the Academy. You can do it through our website, or you can actually make a phone call, and we do have all the contact information on the website.
Okay.
So they would call the Academy office.
Okay.
And
We're going to see that come up on the screen here.
yes, and we'll take a look at that graphic, and that will put you in contact with probably me, ultimately, and then we can work out arrangements of whatever your questions are, what things you'd like to do. We have opportunities for middle and high school students, grad students, undergraduate students involved in our annual meeting, and even volunteering to help with some of the activities of the Academy.
Hold that thought on the volunteering. There's your contact information.
There we
right
go.
there.
So we are in the BRC, which is a biology research complex up at the University of Northern Iowa, and it's room 50. There's our email address, and there's 2 of them, iascience@uni.edu, or they can email me as well at uni.edu. There's our phone number, and that's my number directly, which is 319-273-2581. And again, there's the website address, scienceinoiowa.org. And I mentioned about the middle and high school students, so that's something that teachers can be involved in. I don't know, Lynn, if you want to talk about junior academy, but
Actually, I was involved in junior academy when I was a junior in high school, believe it or not. And you bring in a science experiment, you have a table and a presentation, you talk to scientists. Now, as what I'm involved in is I actually go and talk with those students, go and then I rate their presentation. I tell them what they could improve on,
Okay.
and what they've done really well. And those ratings go in, and the person that gets rated up at the highest can actually go to a national presentation at Academy. And actually, I was picked for that,
Yeah.
believe it or not, when I
Doesn't
was a
surprise
junior
me
in
a
high
bit.
school.
Doesn't surprise
you
me.
should be
So
surprised at all.
I've been
shouldn't you?
involved in the Iowa Academy for a long time, and was president and am president of the Iowa of the section, the Iowa Science Teachers.
Okay.
So lots of teachers have their students come up with a question and explore that question, do experiments on it, collect data and evidence for their conclusions, and then they present those at the Iowa Academy.
As Craig and Lynn were both talking about these projects, there's actually some funding that is available for these kind of projects, and that's where we're going to go after we pause right here.
We connect here.
We connect here.
We connect here.
And here we are, continuing to serve the Valley, and thanks for staying with us. Lynn, I'm going to come to you with the next question because it deals with educational opportunities. From the time you first got interested and all of your career in the sciences, the trigger came as you were a little girl and interested in getting involved in. Did you know it was science at the time you were doing that?
Definitely. In high school, I had great science teachers. And so I actually was involved in collecting information on a pond. That's what it was called, a pond study. So, and I went to the Iowa Academy to present, and everybody else had these really long titles. And I thought, oh, didn't matter. But actually, I evidently did a good job. So, but the most exciting thing, I think, is that is teachers coming to the academy, applying as a school and getting their kids involved in doing science. Because when kids do science, when they realize that you can ask questions, you can experiment, collect information, and you actually make your decisions based on those observations, that's probably the biggest aspect that I think the scientists really want to see happen with kids. They want kids involved in actually doing science and making decisions based on their evidence. Because if we can provide that for the whole society, people making decisions on evidence, we're all going to be better.
I said before the break that there are funds to help students get involved in that and their projects. Let's talk about the situation or the system that gets them to that point, Craig.
Yes, we have actually a couple of grants that students can apply for. So that, again, middle and high school students through the Iowa Junior Academy of Science. And the process that leads up to this is that the students actually sit down and they they figure out what their question is, they figure out what their research project is and what their methodology is going to be. And by the way, we do provide assistance for that. If students would like to have a scientist help mentor them on something, we can actually arrange that. So they write a proposal to the Academy, and the proposal describes all these processes that we're doing. We actually have a format for them. They're not on their own. We show them how to do that, and all that's available on the website. And they request funding for certain types of equipment or consumables and things that might be used in their project. And the project is then reviewed, as Lynn said, by Iowa scientists or science teachers. And from that review, the students actually get comments about their project, ways to improve it. And also, they may receive funding. In fact, many students do receive funding as based on the proposal. So actually what they're doing is what professional scientists do, like if they were applying to the National Science Foundation, but it's not a real thick thing. It's a small version of that, and so they can apply for funding that actually helps them do the project and even get mentoring and get comments from our membership.
Okay. Now again, that information, either a phone call to you or get some preliminary information on the web.
Correct, yes. And we are more than happy to help. In fact, our members are very happy to help. It's a very collegial group, and as you can imagine, scientists are excited about what they do, and they love being able to tell about it and help, I mean, especially students, middle and high school students. What a great opportunity it is for the students and also for our scientists and science teachers.
When I first contacted you, it's been well over a year ago, and you were at that time tied up with the annual meeting that is going to be going on. There are also volunteer opportunities within the organization. Can you spend a little time talking about that?
Sure.
Either one of you, please.
We have projects that we do throughout the year. So for example, we have a speaker series out at Saylorville Reservoir at the gift shop out there. If anyone has some expertise in something they'd like to talk about, they may be able to speak at Saylorville. That's a volunteer opportunity. For professionals or even general members who have an interest, there's also opportunities to review these projects that students have. They have an opportunity to do that. There's elected leadership in the academy. There are a number of positions that are open to serve that way. The academy has standing committees. We actually have 9 committees that people can be involved on. And things like Iowa Science Foundation, which is a grant program that we administer. You can serve on committees for that. They can serve on the Student Programs Committee, which is actually operates the Junior Academy of Science, actually works at that program. They could serve on that committee. And again, this is statewide. There's the Iowa Science Foundation, which is a grant from the state of Iowa that funds various projects by scientists, science teachers that fit our mission. So those are opportunities as well. You can serve on that committee and help determine what projects get funded. So, and there's the journal as well, that there's a committee that actually reviews submissions to the journal. So there's a number of things people can do as part of the academy. And then from time to time, we may have other projects that come up within the academy. We've worked with the Iowa DNR on different types of projects and programs, research projects. So there's a wide variety, and a phone call would help us explain that in more detail.
Okay, and there's your contact information once again. Lynn, looking ahead, particularly when we're talking about, well, the fluid situation that's going on in the year 2020, what are the challenges ahead for science education, in your opinion?
I think the challenges ahead are the same challenges that we've always had, even in the past, is the idea that we want to train more science, students in more science. Society needs to have citizens that understand how science is in terms of using evidence to draw their conclusions. that instead of just believing what you want to believe. So that's really the essence of what science does. That's what we have tried to do. That's what we try to communicate in terms of science to the state, that we want a educated public in science. And to do that, we need great science teachers. We've got a lot of science teachers that are my age and older that are going to be retiring. And we're going to need a rich, new, excited group of science teachers to carry on science education and to train more scientists to go on and do great things for the state of Iowa.
Can you add to that, Craig?
That's really, from a student standpoint, what our junior academy is about. And then also, at our annual meeting, there are over 120 research presentations made. And some of them are from undergraduate students and graduate students, as well as faculty. And those provide opportunities for those students to work in science. And the same goes for the middle and high school students. So at that level, they have an opportunity to actually experience science in a very friendly way. In fact, at its core, science is fun when it gets right down to it. It's hands-on, and it's not white lab coats and glasses all the time. It's outdoors doing things. You come to our annual meeting, you will see some scientists dressed in suits and ties. You will see some in blue jeans and mucking boots, you know, kind of depending on the kind of things they like to wear because of what they do. So the Junior Academy opens up opportunities. The Academy as a whole does that because they get a chance to see all of that. And the same for teachers. We have an Iowa Science Teaching section that is essentially the State Science Association for Iowa. And so teachers can be part of this, and the students coming through the programs can see what science is about, and teachers have opportunities to influence things in science education in the state by being part of the academy.
Can we put that contact information back up on the screen one more time, because it's got the website and the phone number and Craig's email address and so forth. Anyone interested in anything you've heard us talking about for the last couple of minutes, please make contact there. Looking ahead to 2021, are plans in place?
Yes, so this year we didn't have an annual meeting, and we are not going to have a teachers conference this fall. However, we are going to try to hold those next year in April, possibly together. Annual meeting and ISTS Science Teaching Conference. So that's what we're working on right now, and those will be in April, probably in the Des Moines area. We think we know where it's going to be, but we aren't quite ready to announce it yet.
Right.
But we're expecting it to be in the Des Moines area next year, and probably the Teachers Conference and the annual meeting conference together if we can work all those details out. But both of them will be in that part of next spring during the month of April.
Excellent. It's the Iowa Academy of Science, promoting science research and education. Well, the science of time has actually caught up with us. Craig and Lynn, thank you very much for joining us. And thank you as well for joining us for another edition of Serving the Valley. Until the next time we meet, I'm Roy Justice.